Well, greetings and salutations, test taker. This is Dean Tenney, our test takers, I should say. Dean Tenney, aka the Series 7 Guru, and our always very special guest, Brian Lee. Probably know him as the Test Geek. He's the managing member of Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. And it looks like LinkedIn. Looks like we're not on LinkedIn. So, they'll figure it out, I guess. Come see us over here. Let us know what series you're taking, where you're joining us from. We do this every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time. Share with any test takers you know. And in terms of housekeeping, what we usually do is start off with some debrief, and then we finish up our housekeeping, and then we answer any questions you have. It's all about content. Community is great. You know, we got victorious test takers that pop in from time to time. But Brian and I really like to see if there's anything we can help you with in terms of content. So Series 7 Debrief, this is something that Brian had told me about, which I wasn't aware of. I knew there were questions showing up on SPACs, but I got confirmation today, Brian, that indeed that public offering price of $10 for a SPAC is testable. So I would think of that as kind of like par value, for lack of a better term, on that. And what a SPAC does, a special purpose acquisition corporation, traditionally was known as a blank check company, right? Because we're raising money, we have a blank check that then go try and acquire a business, and we have 2 years to make that acquisition. Now, another thing that came to mind, Brian, and I'd like your thoughts on it. Do you think they'll test on the secondary purchaser of a SPAC or blank check being entitled to a prospectus 90 days for the effective date, or do you think any of that stuff's testable?
No.
Okay.
Again, now you put this up on Series 7, correct?
This is Series 7, yeah.
Okay, because when I heard it, this question came from Series 65.
Oh, wow. I heard it from the 7.
The $10 offering price was a Series 65.
Yeah, do you think there's a NASA FINRA joint committee or something where they have adult beverages? And
no, they don't even hang out at the same bars together.
The other thing I wanted to remind people is about an interval fund. A lot of people, this content is in your test prep vendors, and they have so much stuff for you. Sometimes I know it's easy to just think you've read over something, and then I never saw that before. And I just want to remind you about an interval fund, which is a type of closed-end fund that does not trade on the secondary market, also known as a target date fund. There you go. So have you heard, Brian? I've been hearing that that's showing up on the 7th.
Yeah, I've heard it intermittently for the last 5 years.
Yeah, there's questions. I think of performance opportunities, that's what I call test questions, as probabilities, just like your draw. And there's some things that are low probability, things are high probability. And then, Brian and I's frustrations with things you have no chance of seeing that you still get practice questions on. Other than that, the debrief has been pretty standard stuff. They said they did see this is again 7. We'll do debrief on any good debriefs we get from an exam. We're not allowed to ask you like what was question 35, but we can say, hey, what do you feel like we could have done a better job preparing you for? Right. And they're saying, I'll wait for confirmation on this, that they did get tested on the MSRB complaint being 6, whereas FINRA's complaint is 4. I'm not sure about that. That seems like a level of minutia that I wouldn't expect on a 7. I would expect maybe on a 24. Okay, other than that, pretty standard stuff. Just seeing if there's anything else here. All the other stuff is standard stuff people tell us we see. So we're always trying to give you what people are seeing that kind of surprises them. All right, rest of our housekeeping. If you have a content question, we'd appreciate if you tell us in the chat what exam you're taking, SIE or Series 7, with a capital Q followed by your question. Because what happens is sometimes we'll ask a question, we don't know what exam you're taking, and it might be testable on more than one exam in a different way. And so it's helpful if we know exactly what exam you're taking for that particular question. So make sure it's in that way. If you missed the live stream, you can get it as a podcast on Spotify. It's also available as a podcast afterwards on YouTube. And if you are using my channel, including this YouTube live stream every Tuesday, the best way to use the channel is to go to your series exam, find the playlist. It's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. If you want to binge, that's the way to do it. If you're trying to find a particular thing, like margin or, excess equity, put that in the channel search bar and it'll come up. I get asked all the time to explain things that there's probably 8 videos already for. So just use that channel search part. I think you'll be a little more efficient in that. Now, my channel is a free supplement to your paid study materials. And if you are looking for paid study materials, I can't think of any better recommendation than a Kaplan QBank. I've been trying to get Brian to do his own QBank, but he's not interested. So a Kaplan QBank. And if you want a Kaplan QBank at checkout, you can use my Guru 10 discount code. 7 is like $58. SIE, I think it's 40 something. And I think combining that with Brian's paid supplements, he has a whole video series. So, the problem with my channel is there are like 600 videos. So, if you just want to watch stuff that is a distillation of the test, then you might want to consider investing $100 with the Guru 20 discount code. All on Brian, I think, is about $100. I continually get positive feedback. I can't get him to write a QBank, but he does write practice exams. He lets us share them with you on the channel. And I get people, oh man, I saw 3 or 4 questions just like that. So, I think that's a very strong correlation. Highly recommend it. Now, if you don't have the $100, we have a scholarship. No, I'm kidding. We do not. You can get the PDF with his class notes and that practice final for $40, or just the PDF with the practice final for $20. So I highly, highly recommend that. At the end of the night, we do a drawing for a free 30-minute coaching call. Nathan and I, it's up on the channel, did stop orders, sell stop limits, buy stop limits. We went a little over 30 minutes, but that's okay. I don't really have a hard stop as long as there's nobody behind you. And Larry, if you're out there, I sent you an email to arrange yours. If you win that, you need to send me an email within 30 minutes. I don't like having floating contingent liabilities floating around. So I don't want you calling me 6 months later. I owe you a coaching call. So, we don't get that done in that following week, then I no longer have that obligation to you. All right, let's see what we got tonight. Let's see what we got. Series 52. Ooh,
Wow.
Yeah, those Muni exams I find to be challenging in terms of minutia. What do you think, Brian? 52? You have any thoughts on it?
I'm sorry. Is that the 529?
Yeah, it's the Munis. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. So I think the only person that's still selling content, I think, is Solomon Exam Prep, I think, has study materials. I'd be interested, Evan, to see who your provider is. I had somebody who wanted tutoring on that, so I bought the Solomon Exam Prep. And Jeremy Solom's a cool guy, but anyways, I guess I didn't. They recognized me, and they reached out to me and go, Dean, where are you buying our stuff? I go, what do you care? And then Jeremy was cool. He said, are you tutoring? I go, I am. He goes, well, we'll send some people here. I go, oh, fantastic. That's great. Yes, greetings and salutations, Diana from Indianapolis. Are you Schwabi there in Indianapolis? That is one of the best cafeterias at Schwab in Indianapolis. They make the best breakfast burritos. I miss it. They have other campuses with a more formal cafeteria. I don't, maybe cafeteria is not the right word. I don't, chow hall, whatever you want to call it. But Indianapolis is my favorite. Series 6 tomorrow. Braden, get some sleep. Make sure you get a good night's rest as much as you can. So yeah, we're sending you good test vibes. Wendy, Brian said that he got it from a 65 debrief about the SPAC, not a 66. Wendy wants to know if that's, I would say this, Wendy, if it's on a 65, I think it's fair game to show up on a 66.
I agree. Yes.
So, and what Brian, his debrief was, and the same as what I got. And by the way, it's fun because we like getting your questions content-wise because I know you're surprised, but we don't know everything. So Brian called me and said, do you know what the public offering price of a SPAC is? I go, whatever I can get would be what I think, right? I'd have a window, and sure enough, it was $10. So I would say, Wendy, that is fair game. I'd be looking for it. It's an easy question. Brian said he got the public offering price 10. That's what my person saw on their 7. My other thing I think would be the 2-year to get this thing done, or you don't have to get back the money. So that means there's going to be an escrow account. And you can't break escrow until you make the acquisition, or you're going to give back the money. And then I don't know about that follow-on. So, Wendy, we appreciate it. If you go in the cave, the Slate at 66 Dragon, and you encounter a SPAC, we would appreciate some feedback.
Dean, it is on the 66 content outline.
There you go. So no surprise. I think 65 next week. All right, Seth, sending you some good test vibes. Hi, Dean and Brian. You're from Minnesota. Alexis, I love Minnesota. Boy, I first started teaching in Minnesota and I didn't have the proper weather gear for winter. And it makes a huge.
Catch that. What's your name?
Alexa thinks I'm talking to her. Alexa, cancel. Anyways, they have these things called Juicy Lucy's, Brian. You know what a Juicy Lucy is in Minnesota?
I do not. No.
It is a burger with cheese melted in the middle.
Sure who's speaking.
So, Alexa, I got to unplug Alexa. She's got her own mind going. Being candid here, really didn't pass the 66 first try. I got a little bit complacent after passing the 7. Alexa, it happens to a lot of folks. How many times have we seen that?
We talk about that all the time. Getting
Alexis, the Greeks have a term for it. It's called hubris. It's surprising that Brian and I always talk about this, Alexis. It would be interesting to know. Oh, that's why she thinks I'm talking to her. Alexa, that's probably what she's thinking I'm talking. Anyways, I'd be interested to know, because Brian and I are always surprised that it's usually the investment vehicle category that people miss even after having their 7. So there's a little difference there, but that might lead to that thought of, well, gee, I already know about mutual funds. I already know about, common and preferred. Oh man, those almost scores just are killers. All you can do is, like I say, now you got to pass 2 tests, the retake and then a test of resiliency. And, I think passing that second test of resiliency is a really good indicator of your future success in the business. So, you just got to put it behind you and move on is what I would say.
Dave,
yeah.
May I add a comment? Because, you and I see these scores all the time.
Right.
Where they've just missed the mark. I've been talking to quite a few people lately. Same situation, 70, 71, 72, if it's a 66, right? And we do a little tutoring session, and I just go through some brief definitions. What's net present value? What does present value mean, right? So, and how do you determine quick ratio? And they can't answer those questions. These concepts that we know show up for everybody. Right?
What I say, Sasha, is while the hurt is fresh, you might want to grab the test specifications from the 66 and just go through it and do a little intellectual personal debrief, plus, 0, minus. So Brian's point, if you go to that balance sheet section about working capital, quick ratio, current ratio, debt to total capitalization, you might want to put either a plus means you knew it and you still know it. Above par means passing. 0 means you think you're at par, and then minus means things we can improve. Now, the other thing I'd warn you, Sasha, and I don't want to sound negative vibes, but I've had people who don't overlearn everything on the retake. And what happens is if they don't overlearn everything, get above par and everything, the thing they did well on, they then drop some points. I had a guy today and he dropped points on a section that he had done very well on previously. Now, part of that's the draw, but part of that is, I think, making sure you do that overlearning that I'm suggesting. Never. I don't think, listen, if I can't talk the test geek Brian Lee into making a Q bank, I don't think he's going to be doing a 52, a 53, or a 4. I'd be shocked. Now, maybe if somebody offers him big enough money, maybe.
I was just asked yesterday to do the CFP.
I get it all the time. The business was just transitioning, Brian. I come from the background of being a product pusher. Nothing wrong with that. But, I was one of the last of the Mohicans in terms of being a transaction-based kind of guy. And we were transitioning where that was the normal thing now, is to do the CFP and be more about relationships. And, be honest, that's one of the reasons I transitioned into being more of an investment banker, where I continue to could be transaction-based rather than relationship-based. And, I think CFP is, I think if I were starting over again, I'd probably go get a CFP. Yeah, there you go with the code. I love it. Yeah, everybody, I haven't had anybody who's not enjoyed Brian's videos. So, like I said,
Thank you, one and all. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I think the paid supplement. The other thing I really like about Brian's videos, the whole sequence, by the way, is his ability to make a distillation of all this stuff, right? So I told you, as much as I love my free, supplement for you, there's literally, we just crossed over 600 videos yesterday. So I was going to tease a guy. He said, "What video should I watch the night before?" I said, "Oh, you got to watch them all." It's like
Ouch.
700. Yeah, that's like 700 hours of content. That's good because it's free. The price is very popular. But the other thing I like about Brian's course is helping you make editorial decisions, right? You can use it to make confirmation. Like Brian talks about it, I talk about it. You got a Kaplan practice question on it. Then, as I joke, then angels weep for you if you then miss that. Now, the other thing I tell you on the channel, and it happened again today, Brian, so you're probably going to get more. I don't even deal with people. Brian's been kind enough to let us use his content on the channel. And you can watch me do it, hit pause. And we've now even had students that wanted to do Brian's exam together, and we've done that. It's on the channel. But a lot of times when people have a question, I don't even get into it because the rationale's there. I say, just, call Brian. I'm sure he's more than happy to explain to you why the question is the question and why his answer is the best answer, given the answers that I'm not going to spend my day doing that. So
Yeah, let's talk about index funds.
there you go. There you go. Need more points. There you go. There you go. Now, as we said, Sasha, just make sure you bring 2 and 4 along. Don't forget the caboose on those 2 and 4 because you don't want to go backwards on those. Do I have any explicated question videos specifically on business practices and client recommendation? I do in the context of the test specifications. So if you go to the channel playlist, there's test specifications, and you can watch me go through that document with you on those topics and, type what I think is, the appropriate response. Brian has a more formal version in what he calls his class notes of that than I do. So,
Dean, would you like to take a look at a particular situation?
Sure.
An IAR
Whoa.
attends a presentation on a REIT and then recommends it to his client. Would this be a reasonable recommendation or would it be unreasonable? Those are the answer choices. So the IAR goes to a presentation on a REIT and then recommends it to his client.
I think that would be okay. I mean, I did my due diligence. Part of the presentation was doing due diligence. No?
I think that's the hook.
Okay, so did I get it wrong?
I think that's the hook. You think, well, the IAR has gone and learned about the REIT.
Yep.
But what's the client's objectives?
Well, is that in the context of the question?
Nope.
Oh, well. Well, listen, nobody gets 100, even yours included. So, I mean,
Me too. I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah.
So that's one of those ethical questions.
Yeah, well, I kind of joke, Brian
questions.
and Sasha. I joke that the compliance department is called the sales prevention department.
Oh, stop.
And they think the easiest way to stay out of trouble is not to sell anything. So, how to handle certain permitted, prohibited, all the gray areas are best answers. Yeah, they're judgment questions for sure. I would tell you that most of the time, if it's permitted, it's going to be a disclosure question. And prohibited means you just can't do it. So I think particularly on NASAA exams, you got to read them once just for context. I call it RTFQ, read the full question. RTFA, read the full answer set. And then, then go through it and try and look for some pivot words like Brian just pointed out to me. There was no context in terms of data gathering or suitability for that question. And you really got to be in that mindset for that as well. So you have it scheduled. Well, Diana, I have a podcast. You failed. Is it over? The answer is no. I will link it here that for you. And I have 5 steps I think you should do, and you're in violation of one of the steps, which is you need to get a new test date. Your mind doesn't do well without a test date. So I don't care if it's, 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks, your brain will start drawing you to that date. So my first thing would be watch my podcast and then get that date. So I would, make sure you're comfortable with the date. I mean, like I say, you want to have a fudge factor in there. Same thing I said to Sasha, you give yourself permission to do that debrief using the content outline, And then I'm a big believer, and I'd be interested in your thoughts, Brian. So, Diane, I'm going to say something that Brian may not agree with, even though, most of the time we're on the same page. But I think I would give yourself permission to refresh and reset. So if you don't have a date, maybe take 3, 4, 5 days just to let your brain lay fallow, so that, it's like if you're planting beans every season and you're not rotating your crops or letting your field lay without anything in it, your brain's kind of similar. So I would let your brain kind of get back up to speed, recharge, so to speak, before you initiate your second battle plan or study plan. Brian, your thoughts on?
I like it.
Okay.
After the first or second attempt, you got to
Yeah, because you can get tired. You can get worn out. I mean, these
got to
exams.
decompress, no doubt.
Yeah. And then you'd be surprised sometimes. Like, when somebody does a study plan, I say, listen, you got to give yourself a day off. So what's that going to be? Friday, Saturday? Because you just can't be doing this like 8, 12 hours a day. It's impossible. Now, I know you part-time studiers say, what, 8 or 9 hours a day? There are people who only have like in the mornings, for example. All right. So here's a question, Brian, from Timmy. An IAR of a federally covered advisor, are you required in the register in the state in which you have an office? State in which you have more clients, or both? I'll let Brian handle this, even though I think I know the answer to this one.
IAR of a federal advisor, easy.
Yep.
Only the state in which you maintain an office.
Yeah, de minimis, Timmy. I would just say de minimis does not apply to a federally covered investment advisor rep.
Right.
They only have to register in states in which they have a place of business. Secondly, please note, broker dealers don't have de minimis. So the only time the de minimis is ever going to be part of the answer is if it's not a federally covered investment advisor. Then it would apply to the firm and to the investment advisor rep. It has no meaning in the context of being federally covered or in the context of a broker dealer or an agent of a broker dealer. So, yeah, I mean, don't first what you got to do, Timmy, is get that all up in your brain housing group, and then you got to work on delineating it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think of Timmy as a cast of characters you're going to be tested on. And in that cast of characters, there's the administrator, there's a broker dealer, there's an agent of a broker dealer, there's an investment advisor. Timmy, I just realized I'm going to link to this. Brian did a fantastic course for us. We sometimes offer evening courses. And Timmy, Brian did a course called Definition and Registrations of Persons. Was that what it was called?
That's right. Yeah.
And that's available for free as a replay right now, Timmy. I'll link to it. And I continue to get comments from people about how helpful it was in terms of this kind of a question. Now, I'll link that, and I'll also link, Timmy, my version of Brian's thing, Who's Your Daddy? And that video is about your daddy's either the SEC or the state, never both, on the investment advisory side.
Right.
I think both of those will be helpful. And then Brian and I did a whole 65 podcast together. There are, I think, what did we do? 5 or 6 episodes, Brian?
6.
Yeah. So we have a playlist of podcasts that we did. And again, we continue to get feedback that people really have found the video, Brian's class replay, helpful. Read the comments, by the way. Sometimes the comments can be uplifting. Not everybody likes that. Sometimes there's a comment like, who are these clowns? But for most part, read those comments, check those things out. I'll put them in the playlist for you. And I think you'll find that very helpful. And then Brian's practice exams, he's got a thing called a cheat sheet, Timmy. What I like, where it's kind of what I'm just talking about. It's where you put the cast of character in a box and kind of look at what it is. You haven't rescheduled. I think we said you should reschedule. So Gunnar Gonzalez, I like that, Gunnar. In the Marine Corps, a gunner is a warrant officer. They have much respect in the Marine Corps. So I like that, man. I think your parents did a good job, assuming they gave you the gunner name and you didn't just make it up yourself. Hi, Dean, just took 7 pass. All right. Victorious test taker in the house. Options menu really help me. Yeah, we both think you should be process driven when it comes to options. You got it. 10 margin questions. That takes me by surprise.
Wow.
That is out. Test question 65, 66s. That's a huge standard deviation. That is what we'll call that mathematically a fat tail, Brian? Or
that's exactly what it is.
But listen, it happens. And that's why, Gunnar, I always say you got to overlearn, because you got to be able to take down any draw, whether it's the dream draw, face of death draw, whatever it happens. Yeah, I think so too. Nathan, Finally got Nathan's coaching call done. Past Perfect. I think we should start a support group for Past Perfect folks. They do take in the weeds. I just had a guy, Nathan, who was doing Past Perfect. And, both Brian and I are agnostic about test prep vendors. Past Perfect gives you plenty, STC, Kaplan. I got into it on the 24 Reddit with a guy who kept bashing Kaplan. I'm like, listen, if you were a test taker and you didn't like Kaplan, then you can bash all day long. But if you're a third party and you're promoting Past Perfect and you're bashing Kaplan, I hate to tell you, but the next time you do it, you're going to be banned. And then this guy shows up. He's another Past Perfect guy and says, "Are you the sole arbitrator of posts that are appropriate?" I go, "Well, as a matter of fact, I am. I'm the founder and moderator of this community." So anyways, I deleted. Anyways, the question that this guy was asking me is, do you have to calculate yield to maturity on the actual Series 7? The answer is no. And the Past Perfect makes you do that stuff. Now, Nathan, when I answered the guy, I was tempted to put a caveat to that. What I mean by that is sometimes it looks like they're asking you to do yield to maturity when they're not. What they're simply asking you is to recognize the relationship, right? So what I mean by that is they ask you what is yield to maturity, but from the question, you know what the nominal yield is, and you should know that's a higher number. So, you can shop the answer set is what I'm saying on that. ID, it asks about Rule 606. So, Tiffany, what I'll do is I will look that up. Or I don't know if you're signed up for the live stream overtime session, but I will look that up and I will post that this evening for you, my explanation on 606. So, ID 1433228. How often must customers have the right to request routing information? So payment for order flow, I think we have to have it on our website available to them, and then I think we have to update it quarterly. The answer was annually. Well, let me look it up, and then Tiffany, our subject matter expert for that, is a guy named Bill James. So I'll look that up, and I will post a video on it. And I'll check with Bill James and see what he's getting at in that question.
Will he answer your phone call?
Yeah, Brian. No, I have some friends that aren't very friendly with each other. I'm the glue. Yes, he does.
He'll take your call, but no one else's.
Okay, be nice. Howdy, Cynthia. Yeah, Notman. They do 52. Well, then I think you're in good hands. Notman Marks is a great firm. Brian Marks did a 79 over the weekend, 2 weekends ago. Fantastic. He did 2 sessions. So I think you're in good shape. Yeah, good shape. 65 from Atlanta. Peyton. All right. 10 years ago in Kent, Washington. Wow. That was when we did live classes.
Way back in the day.
Man, all right.
10 years ago, 2013. That's about right.
Yeah.
That was at the old Kaplan College.
Yeah, I like that location actually. Were you still at with Kaplan on those days?
I was with Kaplan then, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I had come back from Russell.
Oh yeah, I forgot you had that little interlude with Russell.
That's exactly what it was. An interlude with Russell Investments. That's right.
A long call and a short put. I think we can. You want to do that on the whiteboard for Zena?
I know this may be obvious, but can you explain the difference between a long call?
I think Brian can do that.
Yeah, and one big difference is one has the right and the other one has an obligation.
Yeah, I think Zena, what they have in common is one is buying the stock. They're on the same side of the market, right? So one is a choice to buy the stock and the other is an obligation to buy the stock. I don't know the context of the test you're taking. If you're taking a 4 or a 9, it could be a question about position limits. And they ask you to recognize what's on the same side of the market.
Yeah, essentially the biggest difference between it, well, the 2 differences as I think of it, right? One is the right to buy stock. The other one's an obligation if the other side exercises their rights.
Yeah.
Right? As Dean said, they are both on the same side of the market. They're both bullish. But that's about where their similarities end. One you have to pay the premium, the other one you receive the premium, right?
The way I think of it, I don't know if it's helpful, Zena, is that on that put, you're the put E. So, right, if there's a put-er, there's going to be a put-e. And so, Zena, I think of people who are short options as potential victims. You're a potential victim. And what I mean by that is you have an obligation to buy the stock at the strike price. Strike price may be 0, right? And when you're long a call or long any option, you're in control. You get to decide whether or not you want to do something. I always use, Zena, when people are booking tutoring. I say, when you're booking tutoring, you're doing an opening purchase. From my perspective, it's an opening sale. You have the right or choice, not Dean. So, I start the tutoring session by, what would you like to talk about? And I go, what do you mean? I have the choice? I go, yeah, you're the one who paid the money. So what would you like to talk about? So Brian I call it the options matrix. I think, Brian, you call it the beauty chart or the aerobic chart or something?
Or something. Options aerobics. Sure.
There you go. So call up, put down, call up, put down. So I think, Zena, from a compliance standpoint, you should definitely know if I were your registered option principal, I would be more likely to approve somebody to buy a call than I would to sell a put. Now, if you tell me you want to sell a put, Zena, to get paid to do something you're already prepared to do, then maybe you want to sell a put. So a put can be an alternative to a limit order, right? Because a limit order is where you want to buy the stock at less than the current market price. If I'm willing to buy Apple, I could sell a 180 put, oblige myself to buy Apple at 180, and somebody sticks it to me. I go, thank you very much. I wanted that stock. So
I wonder what test she's taking.
Yeah, Zena, just put back in the chat what test you're taking. Hey, Marcel, if you're here, I owe you an apology. I haven't had a chance to return your email, so he's probably upset with me. Maybe he's not here anymore. But I'll get back to you. So 65 fellas. Okay. Question. Got another question. I love it. Lots of content. Can you explain NASDAQ? So I'll take a shot at it and I'll turn it over to Brian. So NASDAQ is one of the preeminent market centers. And one thing you get tested on is the difference between the New York Stock Exchange, which can best be characterized as an auction order driven market, and NASDAQ, which can best be characterized as a negotiated quote driven market. Primary market is where the issuer receives the proceeds. Secondary market is where the previous owner receives the proceeds. Third market is listed securities traded over the counter. If I am not a member of the New York Stock Exchange, I can trade whenever I want, wherever I want. And that's the third market. I would add, Melissa, A, B, C, D. I'd add one more to this, and that would be the fourth market, direct trading between institutions. And now I'll turn it over to Brian.
Again, depending on what exam we're taking.
There's 37, it says. She did the right thing. So thank you so much, Melissa. So Melissa did what we asked. She put S7 with a Q. So thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah. Just to kind of piggyback on what Dean was just saying, we go to the exchange if the security is listed there. I tell people the New York Stock Exchange is a private club.
Market center. Yep. Cartel. It's a cartel.
They don't let anybody trade there, and they don't let any stock trade there. You have to meet their requirements. Okay. The over-the-counter market simply is for securities that are not listed on a physical exchange, and they are traded amongst or between broker dealers known as market makers. So over-the-counter was always used to be defined as an inter-dealer market. So it's between dealers. Now, so how am I going to find out where these dealers are and what their quotes are? Well, the FINRA came up with a computer system, the National Securities Association, National Association of Security Dealers Automated Quotation Service. So these market makers upload their quotes to the quotation service. Now the broker dealer just goes on to the NASDAQ to find the quotes of these market makers. That's basically the over-the-counter market. Third and fourth market, again, basic definition questions, right?
Yeah.
Which is a different situation, right? Mm-hmm. But these, the second, as well as the third and fourth markets, these are all secondary markets.
Yeah, and as Brian's pointing out here, the two major market centers are New York and NASDAQ. Right. Those are the two major market centers. So, yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Hoping for 3-0. There you go, Julia. We're sending you good test vibes. I call that the test taking registration hat trick, or the trifecta. And we have many people here. Matt's Bar is where here's the Juicy Lucy originated, actually. All right. That's a Minnesota thing,
Juicy Lucy.
Juicy Lucy. Oh man, we're disappointed too. So those scores are really I know the misfortune. Again, I'm going to post the 5 steps I think you should take in response to that misfortune. But hey, I just had a guy today in social media took it past the 3rd time out. Woohoo! That's a test of resiliency for sure. Most firms I have found know that 60 is not a lack of effort or work. And that's why most people will send you down there again. We had a guy on social media who got a 55 and then was wondering why his firm was so upset with him. For most of us, below 60 is a knowledge deficit problem. Unless you got a good answer about why that's the case, there's not a lot of people going to be empathetic. But 60s, most people are empathetic. 66, do you think suitability is creeping into? Oh, of course. So, Wendy, investment vehicles are all about suitability, right? Let's take the analogy further, right? You come on my car lot, that I say, what kind of vehicle are you looking for? And you need to know what the, you say, oh, you want to be able to go fast in first gear. Here's a Ferrari for you. You want to take the kids to the soccer game. Here's a van for you. By the way, it's also the negative part of the investment vehicles. How do they crash and burn? So I definitely think they creep in there. If not I don't even think I would call it a creep. I mean, I think you got to know, like, tips keep pace with inflation, for example. Common stocks over the long term would beat inflation. Defensive stocks are resilient to the business cycle. Your comments on suitability as it relates to investment vehicle on 66, Brian?
Yeah, and also, which one are subject to business risk, market risk, political
legislative risk. Yeah.
I don't know if I would actually categorize those as part of the investment vehicles. They're probably more so in the client recommendation.
Well,
they're definitely there. Yeah, they don't creep in there. They're there.
I have always been a big believer in all exams, Wendy. You have to overlearn investment vehicles, because by overlearning investment vehicles, almost always in a judgment question, because a lot of suitability questions are judgment, you will be able to eliminate 2 of the 4 choices, leaving you with the 50-50. And sometimes by overlearning those investment vehicles and just understanding, I'll just give you an example, that preferred stock, even though it's equity from the issuer's perspective, it's a bond because it's a fixed income investment vehicle. It's not a bond, but it goes into the category of fixed income investment vehicle with all the risks and rewards associated with that. So that would be an example where I would say intellectually owning the investment vehicle can be helpful in terms of other questions.
And Thunderous Wizard, taking the
I think Thunderous Wizard is Wendy. I think, because Wendy used to have that Wonder Woman logo on her YouTube.
Okay.
So I think it's Wendy. If it's not Wendy, I apologize, Thunderous Wizard. But if you're not Wendy, then you guys should get together, because you guys are into the. I don't know if that's the Wonder Woman W or. But maybe it's Wendy's the burger joint.
I can't see the suitability questions on the 66 being any more challenging than they were on her previous 7.
Yeah.
Right? Because the 7 is just loaded with suitability.
Well, what do you think, though?
66 can't be any more challenging than that.
Well, I do think, here's what I would add to that. There are things that were not on the 7. So I would throw into this concept, Wendy, like negative correlation, for example, right? So under modern portfolio theory, if you have Exxon in your portfolio, Wendy, and then I would put Chevron on there, that would be an unsuitable recommendation according to Professor Markowitz, modern portfolio theory. What I should do, Wendy, is if you have Exxon, put Delta, the airline company, in there, right? Because they would have negative correlation. Oil goes up, that's good for Exxon, but bad for Delta because they need jet fuel oil. And when oil goes down, that's good for Delta and bad for Exxon. So they would have negative correlation. Now, that concept, I think, is unique to 65 and 66.
Absolutely.
Not. And then Brian's really good at the math stuff, but that stuff about internal rates of return and discounted cash flow, that's certainly not something you encounter on the 7. The area you didn't do well in 66 was client recommendations and strategies. You felt that they really tried to trip you up, giving you two very similar answers. Well, I agree that 50-50s are challenging. And then when you get to the 50-50, you got to remember that I hate to give you negative feedback, but as a test writer, right? I'll use Brian. Brian, as a test writer, is allowed to use two correct answers in the answer set and still mark you wrong, even though you picked an answer that was right, because that's why the phraseology best describes, for example, right? Best describes means when you get the 50-50 and you say, man, I think they're both right. I'm telling you they could be. And then you got to say, okay, what do I think is the best of the two remaining answers? So you can still get marked wrong for that. Then I'm not telling you they're trying to trick you. I'm just saying when you get that 50-50, just remember you're supposed to come up with the best answer given the answer set. I told you I don't defend Brian's questions anymore. I just tell him to contact Brian. But many times I'll say, well, given that answer set, that's the best answer. I mean, I don't know what other answer you would like. And then sometimes Brian will say, well, this answer. I go, that's not available. I mean, the test is hard enough without making up your own answer set.
Right? I get that too. I get that. Well, wouldn't this answer be right? Bernie Madoff didn't do that. Bernie Madoff's not an answer choice. You know?
Yeah, there you go. Oh, Jacob, I'm so glad to see you joined us from LinkedIn. It told me LinkedIn was not broadcasting tonight. So glad to see you, my friend. What score range on the mastery? Higher the better, but the mastery is tougher than the actual exam.
Very much.
I think Brian and I are in concurrence that routinely being able to pull a 70, particularly on the mastery, would be, I think, adequate. What do you think, Brian?
For the mastery, I would actually say 65 or better.
There you go. There you go. So
you're probably doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. An hour ago. Wow, Jacob.
Whoa.
Thank you. Thank you for honoring us with your presence.
Wow.
Your presence. Thank you. I think it's Dean, not Sean, but okay. I got the
Yes, he's next to the dean.
If you're taking the Series 7, feel free to reach out with Sean. Now, remember, every draw is different. And kudos on making your mark. And thanks for joining us, Jacob, and sharing that victory with us. We appreciate it. Like it. Yeah, she said, Brian, she did have the quick ratio, net present value, discount compounding. I'll tell you what I'll do, Sasha.
Yeah,
I'll link to another one of Brian's videos. Brian, about, I think 3 weeks ago, Brian, when did you do that video?
Yeah, about a month ago or so, yeah.
Yeah, I'll link. He's got a really good book on video on discounted cash flow, internal rates of return, and I'll link that for you, Sasha, at 4232 in the replay. Can you touch on advertising using testimonials, investment advisors, and broker dealers? You want that one, Brian?
No.
I would tell you, testimonials and advertising. Let's start with testimonials. Testimonials are more a part of a broker dealer's marketing strategy than it is an investment advisor, right? And broker dealers have to make sure they're disclosing whether it's a paid testimonial or not, whether you're an actual customer, that kind of thing. Investment advisors don't typically use testimonials because there's so many areas of vagueness about, whether a testimonial is an endorsement or not. In your dashboard, Wendy, Kaplan has the latest update on advertising as it relates to investment advisors. I would highly recommend checking that out. Now, in terms of broker dealers, I don't think you'll see that on the 66. But, as you remember, Wendy, you had that definition of retail communication versus correspondence. Anything else, Brian?
Yeah, if I could add, remember they changed those advertising rules last April.
Yeah.
I do have a little kind of couple paragraph cheat sheet on the new testimonial IA rules.
If Wendy sends you an email, would you be
Absolutely,
kind of?
send it to her, yeah.
So let me put his email up there for you, Wendy, and I would certainly take him up on his offer to send that to you. There you go. So just send Brian an email so you'd like his little update, and he'll get that out to you. I forgot to say something. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh well.
And if it's an email, you might want to reference the Thunderous Wizard, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Wendy, but yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Yeah, okay, there you go. So, Ben. All right, I'm so happy to hear that, Ben. You deserve it. So, So glad. A couple victorious test takers. We always love having victorious test takers back in the house. It really is good for motivation. I would tell you too, I don't know why you wouldn't believe Brian and I about anything on the desk, but it also helps because people might say, oh, what are those guys? How do they know? So it's always good to have somebody confirm or deny what we tell them. So can you explain tenants in entirety and why it's important for 66? Usually it would be for real estate amongst couples. You have any thoughts on that, Brian, on that one?
Yeah, must be married couples.
Must be married couples. What do you think about real estate? Do they know it's for real estate?
Yeah, I don't think it's any deeper than that. Most times I hear it, it's an answer choice, not really specific to the question.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's the correct choice. I may be wrong. Maybe somebody's getting a question in which tenants in entirety is in the room.
Yeah, I would think it'd be about married couples and real estate would be.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, that's what we're here, Shelley, for, to help people with content. So we appreciate it. Sometimes we have I'll tell you backstage, Shelley, sometimes we have a lot of rah going on. And then, backstage when we were doing a little debrief, Brown say, yeah, I think we could have done more content tonight. And so we try and get a good mix between content, sharing content with you, helping you out with that, and a little bit of community. So we can do both, get the balance right. Brian's mad at me for throwing
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Turning mashed potatoes into premium vodka. That's what we do.
Yeah, I don't think, Sasha, Brian may disagree, but I don't think so. I think we're both on the same page too. I think because people are fearful of math, they shouldn't be, particularly in terms of quantity. Even you're somebody who, in general is not good at math. And then they go down rabbit holes on math that distract them from the broad avenues and highways of the exam. So, yeah, are you going to have to use your calculator? I think maybe, what do you think, 2, 3, 4 times max, Brian?
What test are we talking?
66.
66, no more than twice.
There you go. So, and then I think that people, like I say, it's a certain psychosis on math that sits in sometimes, and it's not necessary. But again, I think the test. Sasha, the other thing I would add to that, and get Brian and I going on a rant because it's one of our favorite rants.
Yes.
But we think test prep vendors feed this.
Yes,
they feed it by, showing you, like making you calculate alpha, for example. There's a simple way to do it, and there's a complicated way to do it, and a text will have 5 pages on the damn thing. So I would like you to overlearn, Sasha. So the other reason I like you to overlearn topics is because if you overlearn, you're scoring well on your practice exams, then you can give yourself permission every once in a while to guess B and assign it to the universe. Right. And if it is one of those math questions, you're one of those math phobic people, you can say, I think I'll just take the B on this one and I'll make it up elsewhere. Well, that's why I call that the caboose, Seth. You got to keep bringing up that caboose, right? That, you got to make sure that you keep reviewing back. Brian has in his study plan, I'll link to it, 4824. He suggests, I think, is that just for the SIE or do you have it?
Are you talking about my inverted pyramid?
Yeah. So Brian thinks you should do like a chapter and then do questions on the chapter and then hit the button that'll let you combine them. Do another chapter, do the quiz, and then combine them. I think I'm getting that right. Is that right, Brian?
That's exactly right.
So that's a way of bringing up
reinforce.
And I think that's a good way to bring up that caboose because it is, depending on how long your study plan is, it's very easy in the 8th week to forget what you did in the first week. So you got to keep reviewing. Tomorrow morning, what's the, well, listen, I don't know, Spencer. I'm not comfortable telling you that. I would tell you the vast majority, I want you to get a good night's sleep. That's more important than anything. But disclosure and unethical business practices is what I would say. What do you say, Brian? Go to bed?
Yes, that's exactly what I said.
Is there a link to the overtime content? There is not, John, but if you send me an email, we do an overtime session, not every Tuesday. It usually ends up being every other Tuesday. There is one this evening, 6:15. If you send me an email, I'll try and send you the link. No promises, but I'll try and send you a link. Let me move my email up there. So send that to me. That overtime session starts at 6:15, and there's a couple spots. Please, we got 40 people here. Don't everybody send me an email for the link. It's capped at 10 is how many people we do in the overtime. Okay, let's see where we at here. All right, woohoo! I love it. The quadrophenia, right? That would be 4. The SIE 6, 63, 65. I am wishing you luck. Bon chance, mon ami. Good news, the 65 overlaps with the 63 on the regulatory component. A little different, a lot more investments. So we're wishing you luck. You have any practice test scores you want to share with us? You do not, Logan. You on the yield. The SIE in general is mainly recognition, and you don't even have to do that on the Series 7. So you most certainly don't need to know that on the SIE. You need to know the relationship. And even then, I don't think you need to yield to call. Your thoughts, Brian? On the SIE, do you need to know how to calculate yield to maturity, yield to call? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Or just understand the properties. And even then, I don't think you have to understand it very well.
The teeter-totter is necessary.
Teeter-totter seesaw. I will link at 5106 to the teeter-totter or seesaw.
Sorry, I was searching for some documents. Yeah. SIE, you don't need to calculate anything more than a current yield. Trip for 2 to Aruba, if I'm wrong.
Yeah. We'll put that in the drawing. That'll be our word for tonight. Aruba.
Aruba.
Aruba. Brian's regulation definition videos on Dean's page. I had it on repeat. Literally, it was my best scored section on the 66. Listen to multiple times. It's wonderful and simple. Yeah, it is. I think. What do we clock in on that thing? An hour, I think, Brian.
It was an hour. That was it.
I'm trying, Sasha, to get him to do some more of that. But the money is not too exciting. But for us, it's about the replay. For Brian, we need the next one. You guys got to help me promote it because we got to get Brian.
We have different.
We got to get 40 or 50 people to get Brian excited.
That's right. We have different business models.
Yeah, that's true. My model is freemium and his is premium. Well, you know what we should do though, Brian? Maybe we could offer a special code in the class or something. Figure out how to do that. Maybe like a drawing or something, and then we could track what you do end up getting in terms of sales from that video, perhaps.
I'm open to anything.
We'll figure it out. My questions are, Jens, how do you overlearn suitability? Well, I told you, I think that's the product knowledge. I said I would attack it through product knowledge. I've gone through my assignments. I share, however, I'm memorizing answers, not necessarily the products themselves. Always a challenge. I don't know who your vendor is. One of the reasons I like the Kaplan QBank is it's harder to do that because it's deeper. Some test parameters have a QBank that isn't so deep. But the way to do that, Carla, is take Brian's practice exam on the channel. I don't think you've seen that, or spend $20 and buy it from him. And that'll give you a nice mark on whether you actually know stuff or not.
I've got a little supplement for suitability that I use for Series 7, where I actually code, I guess, for lack of a better term, the products or the objectives with the most common products associated with those objectives and the risks associated. So it's the only place I believe I know of where the objective is matched to products, which is matched to the risks associated. So the 3 most common objectives: growth, income, and preservation of capital.
Yes,
you have a list of products and then the risks associated with
So, Carla, I don't know what exam you are taking, but I would tell you too, I have a suitability playlist on my channel. If it's Series 7, I have a 50-question practice exam just on suitability questions. And then I also have 3 other videos on suitability as well. So it's a 4-video set there. And I don't think I do it the way Brian does, but Kaplan also, in the appendix of your Kaplan, there's a suitability exercise as well. You understand, Bonds? I think that's good. Whoop, I gave it the wrong.
Just what Dean was saying, it's all tied to products. And of course, the stated investment objective. So, you can do what they call a Venn diagram with those 3 things, right? The suitability is always dependent upon objective and the product.
That's right.
You got to know your products. There's no doubt about it.
That's right. I used to, when I was a practitioner, Carla, I used to say, listen, for me to do a really good job for you over time, I need to know a lot about you. The more I know about you, the better I'm going to be at determining suitability. You say, it's not your damn business. I go, well, on the contrary, it is. We have a know your customer rule. So it starts with knowing the customer, knowing the products, and then trying to, bridge that gap.
That's right.
Yeah, well, it's a big exam. I don't know which exam you're taking, but both 65 and 7, I think that can be a real challenge. Yeah, there you go. So I do the explicative exams and I have suitability questions. Yeah, you need one more point. I get it. So we're going to find you that point. We might have to find it the hard way, but we'll find it. We will find it.
Well, at least you're tackling one of the most important parts of the 7. That's where you're going to find it.
So the question is, can you guys explain in detail what a dated date is and why it's only used on original issues? Yeah, the dated date, because when we form a syndicate, it's going to be operationally logistically difficult if we're doing like a J&J bond and the syndicate is formed in February and muni bonds don't fly off the shelf. The syndicate be open for 2 or 3 months while we're finding a home for these bonds. And the idea that we're going to have to cut a check on July 1, even though we just closed syndicate maybe on May 15th, is a little ridiculous. So what we say instead is we say the dated date is March 1st. And so what we're saying is we're not going to pay you for January and February, and we're not going to pay you in July. So this is sometimes referred to as a long coupon. So the coupon you get for next January will be both the 6-month time frame as well as that little thing. So when the interest again begins to accrue is right on, right? I used to use it even outside of the new issue because I just think in my own mind, it helps me with accrued interest, the dated date. The date the bond starts to accrue interest, I think of it as the next time frame. In this case, it's a long time frame because of that. So I hope you found that helpful. I don't know how testable that is. What do you think, Brian?
On the 7, I don't. It used to be.
Yeah, I would call this. Brian and I think are on the same page. I would consider this to be a legacy Series 7 question.
That's correct.
That used to be there, but I haven't heard of anybody seeing forever. Boom. Yeah, that's part of why we're here too, to help each other out, community. Do you get the Kaplan Mastery when you purchase the QBank? I don't know. Do you know that, Brian? I don't know.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, it comes with the final exam and the mastery exam.
Fantastic. Wow, Melissa, you should be good to go. 80s on STC. That's fantastic. There you go. You got to buy a book, Luis. You must buy a book and you must read it cover to cover. All right. So I don't know why we continue to get that question.
And then you must get a supplement, Dean's supplement and my supplement. And then you're right. Absolutely.
All right. We're getting ready here for our drawing straddles. You want to do a straddle on the board real quick, or what do you think?
Straddle on the board real quick. You got it.
So 4 things you got to know about a straddle. You got to be able to identify it, calculate the break evens, determine where it's profitable, and when do you use it. And I will link to a video on the straddles for you in the replay. I won't be able to do the replay right away because I got a Zoom overtime session and I'm teaching at Primerica 63 from 7 to 10 o'clock. Can you believe that?
Are you really?
They begged me. Kaplan called me, Dean, we got nobody. We need help. I'm like, I go to bed at 9. I don't even know if I'm going to make it. So.
Come on, Grandpa, you can make it. There's your straddle. This is a long straddle. When
straddles when you're long,
sure of the direction.
Yeah, we have 2 versions, right? Long and short.
A very big move because you've just paid $600 for this thing, so the stock's going to have to move at least 6 points in either direction.
Right, buying volatility, non-directional volatility. There you go. I love it. Love it. By the way, all speculative option strategies either buying volatility or selling volatility.
Yeah.
I have an exam math on Thursday. I'm not doing good at practice. Around 60 last minute tips. This is what, Tuesday? I don't know. Brian, what do you think between now and Thursday?
I am not doing that good at practice.
Thursday, I'm not. Yeah, it's around 60 last moment tips. I have tips, tricks, and memory aids for the SIE. I have a SIE in 60 minutes, but I don't know. That's a tough one because you know what happens is your timeline is collapsing, so it's hard to decide. I wish we would have heard from you a little sooner, Brian.
Performance tracker on the 60% to see where the weakest areas are.
There you go. So if you're using Kaplan, go to that performance tracker and see what you can pick up tomorrow. Come back Tuesday. Let us know. You know you can still pass. There's people get 60s all the time and pass. So we don't want you to think you're not going to pass. But you are in an area we prefer you would not be in. We would like you to have more margin of safety. Having trouble understanding variable annuity tax concepts. So Brian did that last time for us. And I have a video. I'll link to that. But we got to get to the drawing because I have to go. And we start on time. We end on time. So we're going to pass on that. And it looks like we got a whole bunch of stuff here still. I don't know. All right, let's go a couple more minutes and then we got to go though. How to compare the actual exam? STC is a good provider, Melissa. I can't imagine you got any problem. Yeah. Let's see, 19 points. Yeah, I think I'd rather fail. I'm with you. I think those are tough. Wendy said she sent you the email. If you're a full-time studier, Cynthia, I think so. I mean, if you're a part-time studier, that might be a little aggressive, but I think that's doable on either version as long as you're dedicated, disciplined, and organized. 80s should be fine, Nate. ATN is very testable. An exchange-traded note is a debt instrument. That's very testable. You got to know how that's different than an ETF. Incentive stock options, I would know whether it's tax consequences of that it's part of your compensation. Welcome from Facebook. We're getting more Facebook. Do you think I've got a lot from Test Geeks down? Do I ever? Yeah, you got a great chance. Test Geek is the best, of course. STC is your vendor. They're all reputable. Series 7. So there we go. Okay, are we ready? Are they separate? Wendy's saying those are separate purchases at Kaplan. So I don't know. I don't know customer service. So all right, we got to get our drawing going here. So let me go get the giveaway tool. Boom. And let's choose the broadcast. And I think we're going for Aruba. Is that going to be our word?
That's it.
All right. So how the giveaway works is you put Aruba into the chat. And let me get rid of this. Let me put my email back up. Let me go get our giveaway tool. Share.
Do you do your coaching call via Zoom?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get boom. Okay, we got 14 entries. Anybody? Can you see the screen there, Brian?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so every once in a while I screw that up. Aruba. Have you been to Aruba? I've been to Aruba.
I have not.
I like going to islands. I'm an island kind of a guy, you know.
I am too.
Adult beverage and you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to get a lady friend, Brian. So you and I and Stacy can go to some island somewhere. And
Aruba sounds like a place to me. And knowing Stacy, we want to boat there ourselves.
Oh, there you go.
We're going to rent a 40-foot boat and sail off to Aruba.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, right? Because you did the motorhome, so you did the land yacht.
We
So
we do boats, we do RVs, we do everything. Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Boom, drawing. Oh, why is it not going? Oh, okay. Boom.
Drum roll, please.
Cynthia, all right.
Hey,
All
there
right,
she
Cynthia.
is.
So I think, Cynthia, you may have won in the past or maybe about tutoring. I know our office hours. I know we know each other, so that's good. So just send me that email. We'll figure out when you want to do it, what you want to talk about, and we'll get that done. So, well, as Brian and I say, remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. And Brian says,
keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
We'll see you next Tuesday, everybody. Bye-bye. I'll see the rest of you on the overtime session.